Hey everybody, it's Justin from Bittner and this is my Hercules 12-inch dual bevel compound miter saw from Harbor Freight. I have owned this saw for 4 years. There are no sponsors in this video. It's just me talking about my saw. And having owned it for as long as I have, I can talk about this saw quite a bit. I am supposed to be remaking my miter station in this video this week, but when I was designing my new miter station, unfortunately, the slide depth on this saw didn't work with the design that I wanted to do. So while I was bummed about getting rid of this saw because there really isn't anything wrong with it, I love this saw, it didn't fit my build, so I'm going to try something else for a little while. But before I let it go, I wanted to give you a full review on this thing, having it for so long, and really feeling that this is one of the best miter saws on the market, and it is one of the cheapest miter saws on the market, which makes it even better, right? So let's talk about the Hercules today on Bittner. Let's start with the best feature on this saw, and that is the shadow line sight. So basically what this does is it has an LED light directly over the blade, and it casts a shadow down onto your workpiece. So there are many saws starting to come out with this. I personally will not buy a saw again if it does not have this. That's how indispensable this is for me. It is so precise that when you bring down your blade over your workpiece, you're going to be able to see the individual teeth width of the blade directly over the workpiece. That way you can precisely place it so that you are exactly getting to the edge of that tooth, not to the center of the blade itself. The edge of that tooth is really the correct edge of your cut. When using a laser, you are just doing an approximation of either the center of the blade or the very edge of the tooth of the blade, which if you do it that way, you can only cut on one side of the blade. You can't cut on both sides. You'll be off. If you change out your blades, you're off. And that laser can also become misaligned too over time. So you can't have that with a shadow sight. So for all those reasons, the best, most accurate, view you can have of where your saw is going to cut is with a shadow line sight. The only negative to a shadow sight, you can see when we're in the shop right now, this shadow is incredibly visible. If you're using this outdoors, and I'm going to hold up a big flashlight here, I'll do it from the other side, it does make it harder to see that line than when we're just here in the shop normal. So outdoors, it can be a little difficult, but you know what? A laser is a little difficult to see outdoors as well. I can still see this out there, so it's not a huge negative. It comes with your standard hold down clamp. There are attachment points here and here behind the saw, and so you just kind of slide it in, and now I can screw it down on top of material. The included back fence wings are able to be loosened and slid out, both to support larger material and also for beveling actions. So this is a dual bevel machine. You would flip the blue lever back and then loosen the large screw nut in the back that you can do with your hands. Now I'm free to bevel this in any direction that I want to without it locking into place. If I have my own degree that I wish to place it at, I place it there, and then I just tighten this very large wing nut back here until it's tight. It will stay put at that point. If I want it to go to a standardized detent, 45, 33.9, 22.5, or 0, I just flip back up my blue handles, and when I move it there, it locks into place at 33.9, 22.5, and 0. So it's very nice having positive detents on a beveling feature and that it goes in both directions. Usually dual bevel costs more money. On the right side of the saw, we have a depth stop mechanism. So when I pull my saw down, usually it will go fully seated down into the base of the unit. If I flip this lever down, it's going to get stopped by the height of this bolt that you screw down with a wing nut. So right now I have it stopping the saw directly above. You can easily set your depth, and then when you don't want to do it, you just flip that out of the way again. So it's a very quick and easy process. This is a very large saw, and so with my ability to pull the saw out as well as its height, I'm able to cut a 14-inch cross cut with this amount of movement, 7.5-inch crown molding, and 6 3/4 vertical height of cut as well. The ergonomics of this are pretty nice, where I can grab it easily with my right or left hand. There is a safety latch on the start button here on the handle, so you have to flip that over first. I'm able to do it with both hands. The motor itself is a 15 amp 4100 RPM, which is a very good performing motor there. For miter cuts, we have a 50-degree left and a 60-degree right. As you can see on this piece of metal here, we have positive detent stops. And then if we do not want to use a positive detent, we can then screw in this handle right here to tighten it up, and it won't move at that point. So let me show you something that I made custom for this. It worked out pretty well. Unfortunately, I don't have any plans or anything, but I'm going to show it to you. So maybe you might want to create something similar that might help you out with dust collection. So what I did was I had the idea that I wanted to perform a lot of cuts inside a box that had direct suction to it. So basically what I did was I cut out a curved shape that matched this curve right here on the saw, and so this nests right here. Unfortunately, this does not do, you can't use this when you're doing a bevel or a miter cut, but when you're doing, your straight cuts, this will work. And so I'm basically sucking in from my dust collector here. I'm also sucking from the built-in dust collection port, which honestly is not that great here, but hey, anything is a little bit. And so when my saw plunges in most cuts, you'll notice that the saw is inside that box. And so all the chips are getting collected in here, all the way until about this point. At which point now we're going to have a lot of ricochet on the outside. But a lot of my cuts, it's going to be collecting a large volume of the sawdust. I then took some hard maple, put two pieces together, and then a lot of trial and error with a chisel to basically get the profile for in here, as well as at the drill press, because I didn't have a CNC or a laser at the time, I made some vent holes. This I would definitely change in the future, and when I get my new saw, I will try and make something. So, stay tuned for that. But basically, now what this does is it encloses this box. So all this suction power is being forced to directly the line where the saw blade is entering, as well as these side vents. One upgrade that I did to this saw was I removed the base plate and I put in a piece of Delrin so that I could have a zero clearance plate. The problem with that is it's only good if you're doing these straight cuts. And as soon as I beveled the machine and did some cuts, it made a huge wide insert. So with a miter saw, it is difficult to get these out. There are two more screws way back here. So it doesn't really make sense for me to be swapping this out all the time. I probably wouldn't recommend doing this upgrade like I did. So one last thing, probably the smallest of negatives. When you're looking at this style of miter saw, this is a dual steel sliding rail system. And so the positive to this is it has practically no deflection. Those two steel rails hold that saw in place. The accordion style or double hinge style miter saw that I'm buying sometimes is known to have that deflection. So hopefully I don't have that with my new saw. The negative to these rails, though, is you'll notice it goes way back, and so you need a really deep space for this saw. Again, it's all of these, so it's not just the Harbor Freight Hercules one. It's any of the miter saws that have this sliding rail system. What this does, in addition to needing a deep space for you to put it, if you want to enclose this, which is highly recommended, miter saws make a lot of dust, You need a really big box because you have to accommodate that huge swing that this is making in both directions. You'll notice my 6-inch duct pipe there, whack. That is why I am replacing this, because I must put a 6-inch dust line there going up to the ceiling. It's where we planned it out. I have to do it, and this miter saw will continually hit it. That doesn't work, so I'm going to swap out my miter saws. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I would be keeping this. It's a great saw. After 4 years of use, it has not let me down. I've had tons of blade changes, no issues. And so that really gets us to the whole crux of everything, the price. This has all the bells and whistles of top-tier $600 to $900 miter saws. It has the same power, it has the same capabilities, it has the best features, especially that shadow line sight. It's not even that noisy. So at $300, $299 I think is the cheapest you can get this saw for with a coupon. Usually it's maybe around $350, but if you wait for that coupon, you can get it for $299. That's a phenomenal price. It is literally a half to a third the price of those others in this same category. And so having owned this for 4 years, I can tell you, worth the money. Especially if you are starting out into the world of tools. Miter saws are one of the first major tools that people buy. Typically before a table saw and other things, people will buy a miter saw. This is at the right price point where you're going to get a top tier saw that's going to last you for any project that you could throw at it, and it's going to be at a really good price. So I highly recommend this. I don't want to call this a budget saw. It is a really good saw at a really good price. That would be my 4-year opinion of this saw. So, if you got some good content out of this video, I really hope you'll hit subscribe. That's what really helps me out. My next video, I promise my next video, will be me ripping apart my miter station and building a whole new solution for my new one. I have some cool features and stuff, so if you are going to pick this up, check out my next video and what I'm going to be making. It's kind of unique for a miter station. As always, stay safe in the shop, and I will see you in the next one.